it's Jan with What You Make It, and I am back to show you how we're going to put these base pages into our book. We are going to be using a signature binding system, and this is one of 3 that we're going to do. But a signature is just a stack of folded pages that are then somehow put together and bound into a book. Some books use glue, some will do actual stitching. We're going to use some seam binding, and I did that through the spine of the book on this version that I have shown you before. I created the signatures and then actually put them all the way through the spine. You can see here when I open up the pages, there's that seam binding that goes through that signature and then all the way through to the outside of the book. But I don't really want to do that with this book because I don't want to do the binding to go through the title that is there on the spine. I want to kind of preserve the spine of the book. So I'm needing to come up with something that will allow me to bind it into this book without coming all the way through out to the spine. And I am going, however, to put just a little something there on so that I can put some charms, maybe some ribbons and that sort of thing. So we're going to do that first because once we get the pieces bound in, it'll be hard to add. I'm going to use one of these D rings, one of Tim Holtz's D rings. They come in a couple of sizes. I just want to use the small one. And the reason that I really like it is that you get this flat edge on it. So when I get it put into the book, it's going to lay flat against the spine and then come out, and I can tie some ribbon or hang some charms from it. So I'm going to take the Tim Holtz ruler, and I love using it because it has a center point. It allows you to kind of figure out where your center is. And so because this is by putting it on the center and making sure that your 2 ends are at the same, it's about 3 3/4 to the right and 3 3/4 to the left. I know that I have my center, and so I can just go ahead and mark that. And then I'm going to actually use the D ring here. Now I don't want to do it at the widest point because I want it to go down inside. So I kind of want to mark there, just about 1/8 of an inch up, and go ahead and mark my spots. To punch the holes in the spine, I'm going to use my crocodile, and I'm going to set it on the 3/16 hole punch size. It's the larger of the 2, and I'm just going to center it over the dots that I've made and go ahead and punch it. And now I'm going to take 2 3/16 eyelets and brass eyelets and set those there. This is going to help my book stand up to any extra wear that may be on it because of people touching that little ring. The trick to getting this through is to put one side all the way through and kind of almost down to where the hinge is, and then slipping the other side in to the other hole, and then just gently kind of pushing and pulling it back until that flat edge is against the spine. Then you can turn it over and snap it shut, and you've got your little ring for charms or. Let's talk a little bit about your signatures and making a choice on what kind of signature that you want. You can make a double wide page and just fold it in half and stack those up and create your signature with that. I am choosing to use bookbinding tape. It is cloth on one side, adhesive on the other, and it's very, very, very durable. And my choice to go ahead and create the 2 pages and use the bookbinding tape to create a hinge is that I want this to really hold up to wear and tear. And the cloth bookbinding tape is very, very, very durable and makes a really good option for this. But you could create a paper hinge, make about a 2-inch wide strip of paper, fold it in half, and then hinge your pieces together. Or you could make that double wide stack as you like. You could also use duct tape. You're not going to be able to see this very much, so really anything that is durable and strong on one side would work really well. Another option would be to use something like sticky back canvas. It is the material on one side and then adhesive on the other. So you could make the hinges out of this and it would work really well. You could stain it whatever color you wanted and it would go along with your book. One of the reasons that I chose to go with the hinge form of signature is so that I can make allowances for the thickness of the pages by creating a wider gap on my back signature and decreasing the gap as I move up in each pair. I begin by taking the protective backing off of my hinge and placing it sticky side up, and take your first page and put it in place, kind of divide it in half. Just, you don't have to be absolutely precise because we're going to attach our pages to this, so you're not really going to see. You just want to make sure you've got a good amount on both sides, and then put another strip down, which gives you the double durability. It just makes it good and strong, and either trim off or curl over the edge, and you're ready to stack them up and move on to the next step in the binding process. One of the things that you see that I've done is that I have created some inclusions. On 2 of the signatures, I've made tags, and on the middle signature, I have cut some pages with the Tim Holtz doily on the edge die. And you just make those the exact same way. They're smaller, but you create your hinge exactly as you did on the other ones. I suggest if you're doing something dainty like that doily page, that you will want to go ahead and cover that while your page is still flat. Your tags you'll be able to add in later. So I went ahead and did that. This next step is totally optional. Once I had all of my inclusions done, I laid them flat and I took them to my sewing machine and stitched them down the middle. Gives it a little more durability. It is, again, it's totally optional. If you don't have a sewing machine, you can go ahead and just punch your holes and bind them in, and it's going to work really well. This just makes your pages a little tighter. You also, if you use something like the sticky back canvas or the bookbinding tape, you could punch some holes and just with a tapestry needle go ahead and stitch down the center too. Whatever you want to do, but this is one step that you can skip if you don't happen to have a sewing machine. To figure out where I'm going to punch my holes, I use my centering ruler. Once again, I'm coming 1 inch from the edge and marking each of them so that I know where to punch them. Just do each of those. Really can't say enough about this Tim Holtz ruler that has the centering capability. It really helps on projects like this. Then again, you're going to need a really good hole punch like the Big Bite. You will want to use something that can really get through all of those layers that you have there. So again, this is a great tool. I use it often, so I highly recommend it. Our next step is to create the inset spine, kind of that false spine for the binding, because we don't want to go all the way through. It's going to be different for every project, so you want to get your height from whatever your project is, and then we're going to want to figure out how thick our spine needs to be. Now, you don't want to measure exactly the curvature of the spine. You kind of want to stand it on its end and hold it from cover to cover and see how much space you actually need. And then you will cut your spine to that width plus 3 inches. And I take my scoreboard and I just score it at 1.5 inches on both sides, and that leaves that spine width that you need. I also create a second layer of just that back spine, and it's just another cut of the paper, and I put that on there to kind of give extra reinforcement because that's what everything is going to go into. This step is totally for aesthetic purposes. I just took a little bit of my binding tape and added it to the top and the bottom of my false spine so that it would kind of blend in when you viewed it from the top. Use paint, whatever you have. We've got one last little bit of measuring that we need to do, and that is on our faux spine. We want to figure out where to punch the holes so that we can bring the ribbon through those holes from our signatures. And so I center it again, I go out and put it in the same space. It's going to be different for each project, guys. You just kind of have to learn the principle and then apply it to your project because no two books are going to be the same. But for mine, now that I know I'm going to have 3 signatures, and I want to actually tie them on the outside of the spine, not up in the middle of the book. So I start from behind on the spine. I came up to the middle, across, down to the middle, and then back out. And we'll tie this in very snugly here, and we'll have our first signature in. And one of my little tricks is I use my tweezer bees to hold my knot where it is so that it doesn't unravel and I can get a good tight knot on it. And we have our first signature. So there we go. Now you might think that we would go ahead and attach this to our book, but I'm not going to do that just yet because I want to actually have the pages in here. Again, I'm leaving nothing to chance. I don't want to end up with this thicker and me needing to trim or re-score those. I'm going to use some of this 1.5 inch wide score tape, and I'm going to I want to leave about 1/4 inch from the inside edge. Put that down. Make it a mess. All these little, I told you my desk was clean for about 30 seconds and then I came back. So now I'm going to come back to this edge, put it on here. So this is going to give me great stability on those pages that I sewed together. I'm going to take this strip off. And we're about to hit go. So I'm taking this, and I'm going to use kind of my eye and center it top to bottom, and then turn it over and press. And now that I have the first one on there, it's going to be really easy to go through and add my sticky strip. Actually, all the way out here so that it attaches to the next page as well. This will make it good and sturdy. Again, I'm going to come in about 1/4 inch so that I've got some play as I'm putting the pages in. I don't know about you, but that's the hardest thing about this sticky strip is getting it to pick up. find my tweezers are my best option for that. And I'm going to take my next page, and because I made them so that the outside edge always had the strip of paper, I'm just going to kind of line these up. Again, I like the kind of randomness of them. You kind of seeing what's behind them, but you can see that's now really good and sturdy. Okay, I'm going to finish putting these in, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like when it's done. We're not going to put it into the book until I've done a little bit more decorating. Okay, so I have put all of my pages in. I have some pages I need to create. I didn't count as I was making my base pages, and I have some extra pages in my signature back here, but I didn't want to make you wait while I got those done to show you how this binding technique was going to work. So I have this done, and when I finish putting the rest of the pages in back here, once I know exactly how thick it's going to be, then I can go ahead and do the binding into the book. And I'll be sure and show you that when we get to that point a little bit later. But I think I'm going to call the binding process at this point done. I think the next thing I'm going to do is come back and show you how I'm going to decorate this cover, and then we'll kind of move on to some other projects. This is a great binding technique for a mixed media journal of any sort. So I'm going to put some tags in here so that even if you don't want to do a Christmas book this way, you may want to take a vintage book and turn it into a personal journal. I apologize for doing the voiceover today, but I have found that when the details are, there's lots and lots and lots of steps, I will give you much better instructions by kind of talking myself through it as I create it, and then shorten my dialogue a little bit for you all so you can get the Reader's Digest condensed version instead of Jann's multiple stories version. Hope you are getting in the Christmas spirit and that things are going well and you have some crafty time. I'll be back soon with another project, probably showing you how I'm going to do the cover for this, but I will also let you know I've been working on some fun techniques with embossing and some of the Distress Crackle paint. So these are a couple of embossing folders. That's going to be fun. I have some fun things to share on that. So many ideas for Christmas projects, and I will be back soon. Y'all take care and make sure and save some time for creative play. Bye.